Long before love became a personal choice, it was a public matter. In old societies, relationships were not built for happiness, they were built for survival. Families depended on them, property moved through them, power was protected by them, and religion watched over them. In such a world, a secret relationship was not romance, it was rebellion. People often imagine the past as slower, quieter, and simpler. But in truth, old societies were rigid, tense systems held together by rules that could not afford flexibility. Every marriage had a purpose, every bond was monitored. Love, if it appeared, was expected to submit. When it did not, when it hid in shadows, it became something dangerous. That is why secret relationships were punished so severely, not because people hated love, but because they feared what uncontrolled love could dismantle. The punishments were not impulsive, they were calculated, designed not only to hurt the guilty, but to warn the innocent.
1. Public shaming, the destruction of identity. The first and most common punishment was public shaming. It was chosen because it was efficient. It required no prison, no weapons, no blood, just people. In towns and villages, reputation was life. Your name determined whether you could trade, marry, worship, or even survive. When a secret relationship was exposed, the accused were brought into public spaces, the town square, the market, the steps of a religious building. Their names were spoken loudly, their actions described clearly. Silence was enforced while the community watched. This was not accidental cruelty, it was psychological warfare. People were made to stand still while neighbors whispered, judged, and remembered. The goal was not to end the relationship alone, the goal was to permanently alter how the person was seen. Even after the punishment ended, the damage remained. Doors closed, conversations stopped, trust evaporated. In many cases, public shaming destroyed future prospects completely. Marriage became impossible, businesses collapsed, children carried the stain of their parents' actions. The punishment outlived the crime. Old societies understood something modern people often underestimate. Humans fear social rejection more than physical pain, and public shaming was engineered to ensure the fear lasted.
2. Forced separation and exile, erasing existence. When exposure was not enough, or when families feared the relationship would continue, separation was enforced. This punishment was quieter, but far more brutal. One or both individuals were removed from the community. Sometimes they were sent to distant relatives. Other times they were expelled entirely, with no guarantee of shelter or safety. Exile was not dramatic. There were no speeches, just instructions. Leave. Do not return. This punishment attacked something deeper than comfort. It attacked identity. In old societies, people did not exist independently. Your value came from your place, your family, your land, your role. Exile removed all three at once. You became a stranger everywhere. Even if you survived physically, you lived without recognition. Many exiled individuals never reunited with the people they loved. Distance did what punishment could not. It dissolved memory. It replaced hope with endurance. Exile was used especially when families wanted the scandal erased quietly. No public noise, no prolonged attention, just disappearance. The relationship ended not in confrontation, but in absence. And absence, over time, is a powerful eraser. 3. Forced marriage, legal control disguised as resolution. One of the most misunderstood punishments was forced marriage. To modern minds, marriage sounds like resolution. In old societies, it was control. When a secret relationship threatened family honor or inheritance, families often chose to legalize obedience. If the lovers could be married without destabilizing alliances, they were forced into it. If not, one was married off to someone else immediately. The goal was not union, it was containment. Marriage ended gossip, it restored order, it silenced questions. But for the individuals involved, it often marked the beginning of lifelong punishment. Love did not vanish, it curdled. Resentment grew quietly. Regret settled into routine. Forced marriage worked because it replaced chaos with structure. Society appeared stable again. But beneath that stability lived people who learned that obedience mattered more than feeling. Many individuals punished this way never rebelled again, not because they were reformed, but because they were exhausted.
4. Religious punishment and community boycott. Moral isolation. In deeply religious societies, punishment did not need chains. Belief itself became the weapon. When secret relationships were discovered, religious authorities often intervened. Individuals were publicly declared sinful. Access to communal rituals was denied. Repentance was demanded in visible, humiliating ways. This form of punishment was especially effective because it targeted meaning. People did not just lose social standing, they lost spiritual belonging. In communities where faith shaped daily life, exclusion felt like abandonment by both people and God. Community boycotts followed. No greetings, no shared meals, no invitations. Silence replaced connection. Religious punishment blurred the line between morality and control. The relationship was framed not as a personal choice, but as corruption. Redemption became conditional. Forgiveness delayed. For many, this isolation hurt more than exile. At least exile allowed distance. Religious punishment forced people to remain present, but invisible.
5. Severe legal consequences. When love touched power. Most secret relationships were punished socially, but when love intersected with power, inheritance, royalty, politics, the response escalated. In these cases, the relationship was no longer seen as a private violation. It was treated as a threat to stability. Legal systems intervened, records were altered, names erased, lives redirected without consent. Punishments could involve long confinement, forced labor, or permanent removal from public memory. The goal was not revenge, it was deterrence. Power could not allow unpredictability. Love, when it crossed class, duty, or allegiance, became uncontrollable, and uncontrollable forces were neutralized. These punishments were rare, but their stories traveled far. They were meant to. Fear spreads faster than law.
Why these punishments existed? It is tempting to judge old societies as cruel or heartless, but that judgment misses the point. These punishments existed because old societies were fragile. They relied on predictability. Roles were fixed. Futures were planned generations ahead. A secret relationship threatened more than emotion. It threatened systems built on obedience. Love was dangerous because it answered to no authority. That is why punishments targeted visibility, belonging, and identity, not to end love, but to ensure it never inspired imitation. Old societies did not punish love itself. They punished the possibility that love could weaken control. The psychological aftermath. What history often forgets is what happened after punishment ended. People did not simply move on. Shame lingered. Trust dissolved. Many learned to hide not just relationships, but emotions themselves. Silence became safety. Detachment became survival. Generations internalized these lessons. Love became cautious. Expression became restrained. Fear shaped intimacy. In many ways, modern emotional hesitation has roots in these old punishments, the instinct to hide, to delay, to doubt vulnerability. History does not disappear, it evolves. The final truth. Secret relationships were punished not because people were heartless, but because systems were afraid. Afraid of chaos, afraid of disobedience, afraid of emotion without permission. And so, love learned to whisper.
Over time, societies changed, laws softened, punishments disappeared. Love slowly became something personal instead of political. But what did not disappear was the fear left behind. Even today, people hesitate before loving openly. They still calculate risk. They still hide feelings, not because the law demands it, but because history trained them to. Old punishments may no longer exist in public squares, but their echoes live quietly in the mind, in the way people avoid commitment, in the way they choose safety over honesty, in the way love is delayed until permission feels guaranteed. What once required exile and shame now happens internally. People exile themselves emotionally. They shame their own desires. They separate from what they feel long before anyone else does it for them. That is the real legacy of those punishments. Not broken laws, but cautious hearts. And maybe that's why secret relationships still exist today. Not because people enjoy hiding, but because deep down, love still feels dangerous when it is fully seen. History stopped punishing love publicly, but it taught people to punish themselves privately.